Some of you have been staring at walls for years. Walls of fear, walls of doubt, walls of shame, walls of generational curses that keep telling you this is as far as you'll ever go. But I came to tell you today, if it's standing in the way of your promise, if it's blocking your destiny, if it's opposing the will of God for your life, you don't negotiate with it, you don't decorate it, you don't tolerate it. You pull ID down. Some of you have been praying for the wall to move, but the word says the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. That means you don't wait for it to move. You command it to fall. Pull it down in your mind, pull it down in your spirit, pull it down in your house, pull it down in your bloodline. Every lie that says you'll never be free, pull ID down. Every voice that whispers you're not enough, pull ID down. Every shadow of your past that tries to chain you to yesterday, pull ID down. You've cried long enough, you've carried that weight long enough. Don't you know the same power that raised Jesus from the dead is alive in you? You don't fight with flesh and blood. You fight with worship. You fight with faith. You fight with the word, and when you lift up your voice, when you lift up your praise, when you stand on his promises, walls come tumbling down. I dare you to shout right where you are, pull IT down, because when you pull it down, the enemy loses his grip. When you pull it down, chains break. When you pull it down, freedom comes. When you pull it down, you walk into destiny. So stop walking around the wall, stop analyzing the wall, stop fearing the wall. Open your mouth, lift your hands, plant your feet, and in the authority of Jesus Christ pull. ID down. Strongholds don't fall by silence. Speak with authority and pull them down. Strongholds don't fall by silence. Speak with authority and pull them down. Silence has never broken a chain. Silence has never healed a wound. Silence has never pushed back the darkness. There are moments in life when your victory depends on your voice. The enemy thrives in quiet agreement, in unspoken fear, in the hush of intimidation. But when you open your mouth and declare truth, when you speak the promises of God into the face of your obstacles, something begins to shift in the atmosphere. Strongholds are designed to intimidate you into submission, to keep you quiet, to convince you that what has always been will always be. They are mental prisons, spiritual barriers, invisible fortresses built with lies and reinforced with fear. As long as you keep silent, you are agreeing with the wall that says you cannot pass. But when you begin to speak with authority, when you lift your voice and say, I shall not die, but live and declare the works of the Lord, the stronghold begins to crack. The walls of Jericho did not fall because the people marched in silence alone. They fell because at the appointed time the people lifted up a shout. It was the sound of faith released into the air that brought the stones crashing down. Your silence is comfortable for the enemy, but your voice is dangerous. The power of life and death is in the tongue, and when you speak life, when you speak faith, when you speak the word of God, you wield a weapon sharper than any two-edged sword. A whisper cannot dismantle a fortress, but a word spoken in faith can tear down what has stood for generations. Some of the strongholds in your life are not waiting on time to pass. They are waiting on your declaration. You cannot afford to be quiet about your freedom. You cannot afford to be silent about your healing. You cannot afford to be mute about your destiny. Every time you speak in alignment with truth, you are striking a blow against the chains that try to hold you. Every time you declare the word in the face of opposition, you weaken the grip of the adversary. The enemy wants your silence because silence sounds like surrender. But authority is released in your voice, and authority shifts the unseen world. When you open your mouth and decree that the power of fear is broken, that the curse over your family is shattered, that the shame of your past no longer defines you, You are not just speaking words. You are pulling down strongholds. It is not the volume of your voice, but the authority behind your voice that breaks the yoke. Authority comes when you know who you are and whose you are. Authority comes when you recognize that heaven backs up your words when they align with His word. The walls that surround you are not permanent. They are waiting on a sound. If you stay silent, they will stay standing. But if you dare to speak, if you dare to declare, if you dare to prophesy over your life, you will see the impossible crumble. Strongholds don't fall by silence. Speak with authority and pull them down. What you refuse to confront, you will continue to carry. Pull it down. What you refuse to confront, you will continue to carry. Pull it down. There are weights you were never designed to hold, burdens that were never meant to rest on your shoulders, chains that were never assigned to your destiny. Yet many walk through life with hidden heaviness, carrying pain, carrying shame, carrying the residue of battles they never chose to fight, but never confronted either. The things you ignore do not disappear. They embed themselves deeper into your life. Avoidance does not equal deliverance. Denial does not equal freedom. Pretending the wall is not there does not remove the wall. What you refuse to confront will become a cycle, repeating itself over and over until you gather the courage to face it and pull it down. Confrontation is not comfortable, but it is necessary. You cannot conquer what you will not confront. If you run from the shadow follows you. If you run from the giant grows larger in your mind. Israel could not enter the promised land until they confronted the giants that claimed it. David could not ascend to kingship until he confronted Goliath. Freedom always demands a fight. Progress always requires a confrontation. When you refuse to confront what opposes you, you make peace with your prison. You adjust your life to accommodate your chains. You learn how to live around the stronghold instead of tearing it down. But the longer you carry it, the heavier it becomes. Generational patterns remain because no one stands up to say it stops here. Cycles of addiction remain because no one confronts the lie that says, this is just who we are. Cycles of brokenness remain because no one confronts the fear that says, you'll never be more than this. Carrying is easier than confronting in the moment, but carrying will cost you more in the end. It will cost you your peace, your joy, your progress, your destiny. Every day you choose not to confront, you agree to carry. Every day you choose not to face it, you strengthen it. But when you look your fear in the face and say, no more, you begin to dismantle its power. Confrontation is not just external, it is internal. Some strongholds live in your mind, not in your surroundings. You must confront the thoughts that tell you you're not worthy. You must confront the insecurities that whisper you are inadequate. You must confront the lies that echo from your past. Carrying them does not make you strong. Confronting them makes you free. Pulling them down begins when you decide you will not normalize what was never supposed to be normal in your life. It begins when you say, I will not carry what my Father has already broken. I will not carry what the cross has already lifted. There is no deliverance without confrontation. The stronghold will not volunteer to leave. The wall will not step aside on its own. You must rise in faith. You must face what you've been avoiding, and you must pull it down. What you refuse to confront, you will continue to carry. Pull it down. Every wall standing against your destiny is waiting on your faith to pull it down. Every wall standing against your destiny is waiting on your faith to pull it down. Destiny is never delivered without resistance, never handed over without opposition, never fulfilled without a fight. If there is a calling on your life, there will be a wall in your path. That wall is not there to prove you cannot have it, but to test how badly you want it. Walls are built to intimidate, to suggest limits, to convince you that what lies on the other side is unreachable. But Walls are not permanent structures in the kingdom of God. They are temporary obstructions awaiting the collision of faith and obedience. When Israel approached Jericho, they found themselves staring at walls so thick that history says chariots could ride on top of them. Those walls represented impossibility, resistance, and denial of access. Yet the promise had already been spoken. The land was theirs. The wall was not a contradiction of the promise, but an invitation to activate faith. God could have brought those walls down without Israel lifting a foot, but he required them to march, to obey, to trust, and finally to shout. The wall was waiting for their faith. The wall was waiting for their sound. And the wall fell not because of human strength, but because faith met obedience. Faith is not silent agreement. Faith is active. Faith steps when nothing moves. Faith speaks when nothing shifts. Faith obeys when nothing changes. Every wall standing against your destiny responds to faith. Doubt will leave you pacing in circles. Fear will leave you staring at the stones. Complaining will leave you exhausted before you ever begin. But faith has a voice. Faith has a sound. Faith has a motion that stirs heaven and shakes the earth. The walls in your life are not moved by tears, not moved by silence, not moved by reasoning. They are moved when faith is released. Some of the greatest delays in destiny are not caused by the strength of the wall, but by the weakness of faith. It is not that the barrier is unbeatable. It is that belief has not been activated. When you hesitate to trust, when you waver between obedience and doubt, the wall gains power. But when you plant your feet and declare, I will not die in the wilderness, I will not stop short, I will not let fear dictate my future, your faith sends a signal into the unseen that the wall cannot withstand. The presence of the wall is proof of the value of what lies behind it. The greater the wall, the greater the treasure it is guarding. Every obstruction is a confirmation that there is something worth fighting for on the other side. Walls do not only exist in the physical. They rise in the unseen places of the heart and mind. There are walls of insecurity that tell you you're not enough. There are walls of shame that remind you of every mistake. There are walls of fear that paralyze you at the edge of opportunity. There are walls of doubt that whisper your dream is too big, but each of those walls is waiting, not on time, not on chance, not on talent, but on faith. Faith is the wrecking ball that swings against the stronghold. Faith is the sound that shatters the stones. Faith is the fire that melts the barriers. You cannot wish your way through a wall. You cannot reason your way past a wall. You must believe your way through it, and belief without action is only imagination. Destiny demands movement. Destiny demands voice. Destiny demands courage. Every step of obedience, even when it looks foolish, is faith taking action against the wall. Israel looked foolish circling Jericho day after day with nothing changing. Noah looked foolish building an ark on dry land. David looked foolish running toward Goliath with a sling and a stone. But foolish faith pulls down walls. It is not human logic that topples barriers. It is supernatural trust in a God who has never failed. Every wall standing against you has a weakness. It is not impenetrable. It is waiting on pressure. That pressure is your persistence in faith. Keep walking even when nothing moves. Keep praying even when nothing shakes. Keep praising even when nothing falls. The wall is not as strong as it looks. It is only as strong as your willingness to stop believing. The moment you choose to release faith, the countdown on that wall begins. Faith speaks to the mountain and commands it to move. Faith points at the wall and commands it to fall. Faith does not bow to circumstance. Circumstance bows to faith. The enemy knows he cannot stop your destiny, so he tries to stop your faith. He builds walls to make you weary, to make you settle, to make you believe the other side is not worth the fight. But you cannot let the wall define you. You cannot let the wall dictate your future. You cannot let the wall silence your faith. The wall is a liar. The wall is temporary. The wall is waiting for you to rise up and say, "This is the promise. This is the inheritance. This is the destiny, and I will not stop until I see it." Every wall that stands before you is an opportunity to prove your trust in the one who called you. Every wall that rises against you is an announcement that you are closer to break through than you realize. Faith does not ignore the wall, it faces it. Faith does not pretend the wall is not real, it declares that the wall will not stand. Faith looks at impossibility and calls it possible. Faith looks at delay and calls it preparation. Faith looks at resistance and calls it confirmation. Every wall standing against your destiny is waiting on your faith to pull it down.